Hi guys, it's Aoife from Fred We Dead Laughing, and it is Vlogmas day 24. Can't believe Vlogmas is almost over, only one day left. And for this Vlogmas I decided I wanted to talk about some of the disappointing books I've read in 2016. So these are just some books that I picked up just expecting a bit more of than what I got from them, and I just wanted to go through the list. I have them in front of me from my Goodreads on my laptop, and I just wanted to talk about them. So the first book that disappointed me in 2016 was definitely The Sin Eater's Daughter by Melinda. Salisbury. I've talked about this a few times during the year already, and I've actually unhauled it. I don't know, when I first saw this book and I saw the absolutely beautiful cover of it and read the synopsis, which is a girl who basically poisons anyone who touches her, I just thought it was just such a great concept and it just sounded really good. And it just, ultimately, I just really didn't like it. I felt like a lot of the time the character basically did nothing but moan for the entire book. I didn't really enjoy the relationship in the book. The only thing I did enjoy was the lore of the Sin Eater and what the Sin Eater does, but I felt like that had very little to do with the actual story that was going on in it. And yeah, I just definitely didn't like it, and I didn't continue on with the series in the end. The second book that I want to talk about is actually a book that I originally gave 4.5 stars to, but now that I think about it more, I think I actually want to drop that rating down to maybe a 3 stars. Which I'm going to do right now on Goodreads. So if you see me, I'm actually going through these because it's near the end of the year and I'm kind of thinking about these books again. The initial rush of reading them is gone, so some of my ratings are going down. So if you see me changing ratings on Goodreads, that's what it is. But the book that did disappoint me a little bit was This Is Where It Ends by Maieke Nijkamp. This one was good. I did enjoy it. I felt the thrill of it and like the nervousness, the fright of reading this. It was so kind of had my heart beating the whole time. It was one of those ones that kind of kept me up really, really late at night because I just had to find out what happened. I couldn't put it down because it had me in this like state of excited nervousness because it's about a school shooting, so you kind of have that adrenaline pumping a little bit. And I did like a lot of what was happening. The only thing I didn't like about it was I felt the shooter was too black and white, and I don't feel like that's always the case. These people aren't always inherently evil. There's a lot of things that go on in the background that kind of influences their decision to go on and do these things, as we see with social media profiles and with a lot of these people and that kind of thing. And I just felt like it was too black and white for the situation, and it was just too easy to explain, and yeah, so I didn't really like that. And I just didn't really like, I felt like there, like at one point there was like a relationship in it that seemed to go into the forefront of the story, and like the story became about that relationship rather than about the school shooting that was happening. And I just didn't really enjoy that relationship that much because it was just too forced on me, and it was too forced on the reader's attention, which made me not like it very much. So that was that as well. Another book that disappointed me was Enchantress by James Maxwell. This is one that I read for my TBR jar, and it's one I kind of picked up kind of cheaply on Kindle, but I thought this was going to be like a really great fantasy read, and there's a few books in the series, so I thought it was going to be one of those fantasy reads that I could read for a while. And ultimately it just ended up being boring and dragged on, and there was a very, 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 very horrible scene of animal cruelty that wasn't needed at all in the book that just made my stomach turn. It literally made me feel sick to my stomach, and definitely put me off the book. So yeah, that one was really bad. A book or series that disappointed me was The Sword of Shannara Trilogy. This is one that I started to read after I started watching the TV show, which I really, really loved. So I decided to give The Sword of Shannara Trilogy a go, and it was literally the worst decision of my life. It was so boring. I actually fell asleep reading it so many times, like it's unreal, and by the time, I think I literally skim read the entire third book because it was just so bad. It was repetition of all these like phrases and words, and just like description upon description upon description that wasn't needed, and it was just so bad. It was really, really bad. I really hated it. Another book that disappointed me that I've actually dropped down from 4 stars to a 2 stars, or 3.5 to 2 stars, was Pride and Prejudice and Zombies by Seth Grahame-Smith, obviously based on Jane Austen's classic. I think for this one it's really just that it'd been on my radar for so long, and I kind of got hyped for it and excited, and then the movie came out and I kind of got excited for that. So by the time I read the book, I just was expecting more from it, and it ultimately let me down. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I thought it would. I would definitely just prefer to read the normal Pride and Prejudice, which I really, really love, rather than this one again. And the movie wasn't that good either. I really didn't like the movie either. They were just kind of meh, both of them. I didn't really enjoy them. Another disappointing book or series for me so far anyway is one that you guys probably are aware of, and that is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom. I've kind of spoken about before how I find these books. I've read the first one and the second one. I find them just ultimately boring, and I don't really enjoy the characters. I don't enjoy the relationships. I enjoy some of the side characters, like the other peculiar children, rather than the ones that are our main characters, that are Emma and Jacob. I just don't really enjoy Jacob as a character. He just really annoys me, and I really, really don't like Emma either. She really annoys me too. So I do like the original thought, the creativity behind the peculiar children in the peculiar world. I just don't like the actual plot of the story. Another book that really disappointed me this year was The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This is one I've heard a lot about, a lot of hype about, and I went into it expecting quite a bit, and I just really, really didn't like it. I just felt it was just, I don't know, it was just, the story just felt quite wooden to me, and despite some of the descriptions being very beautiful, it didn't make up for what I thought was kind of a lack of story. I did like the whole thing of 1,000 Nights, and it's based on this guy who kills his wife every night. I did like that, but I thought that the whole relationship came very, very easily, too easily, and she kind of like fell in love with him way too quickly considering everything that was going on. I really didn't like that. Just left me feeling like, oh, this is it, like I just thought it would be better. What really disappointed me this year was Starborn by Lucy Housom. This is one I picked up in the library, and I just thought I was getting this really great new fantasy book. It was quite a big book. It looked like it was going to just give me a really great story, and it was about a girl who was basically, she was kind of saved by these two, they're almost like magicians I guess, and she has this connection to this place, and that they bring her this secret place, and it's to do with kind of the merging of these two worlds, and it kind of just sounded really great, but it just ultimately ended up being really, really boring, and not much happened in it, and I just felt myself being really bored by it. It ended up being really, really rushed at the end as well, where like 400 plus pages leading up to that bit had just been really, really dragged out, and then there was a little bit of action at the end, but it ended up being squished into this tiny little part at the end, which was really disappointing. Disappointing book was Spells of Blood and Kin by Clare Humphrey. This one just sounded really great about a girl who was kind of a Russian alternative to a witch. She's living in, I think it was either Canada or America she was, but her family had this kind of history to these like Russian witches, and they basically make spells using eggs, and it just sounded really interesting. And there was this kind of guy who's almost like a monster in it, and he had to kind of get this spell done by this girl, and she has to take over all her grandmother's spells when her grandmother dies, and she's dealing with that. And it just sounded really, really interesting, but again, it just ended up being wooden. The main character was very, very blah. She was very like a very vanilla character, very, very boring, no spark to her at all. Really didn't enjoy it. A book I had expected a lot from and ultimately was very disappointed with was 172 Hours on the Moon by Johan Harstad. This is one I'd heard a lot about. I'd heard how creepy it was and how thrilling it was, and I actually just kind of thought it was stupid at the end of it. It didn't scare me. I was just kind of sitting there going like, what is going on with this book? This is so strange. And yeah, I just didn't really like it at all. It just ultimately was a bit like whatever. Stealing Snow by Danielle Paige was also one that I expected more of. This one just ended up being like basically every guy she meets ended up falling in love with her, which like I'd hate when that happens. It's just so unrealistic. Well, in my life anyway. But it was just messy, and I don't know, I just couldn't really get into the story, and I couldn't get a connection to the characters, and yeah, I just was expecting more from it, and it just really wasn't what I thought it would be. Another book that I was disappointed with, but I gave it like a 3.5 4 stars, was Aristotle and Dante, Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Saenz. This is one that people probably hate me for, but I have talked about it before. It was just one that I just thought I thought this would be a 5 stars, and it just wasn't. It took me a while to get into Aristotle's character, Ari's character. Didn't really like him. Really liked Dante. Didn't really like the end of it. I just felt there were some things that happened at the end that I just wasn't comfortable with. I do talk about that in my review and my wrap up when I talked about this. I thought the writing was really, really beautiful. I do appreciate the beauty of this book and the importance of this book and how poignant this book is. It just, for me, it just ended up being disappointing because it wasn't a 5-star read for me. It wasn't one that made me go, wow, I really love it. It was just kind of like, it's okay. So yeah. And the last book that I really hated this year, which you guys will know what it is, was A Little Something Different by Sandy Hall. I do have this one somewhere, but I can't remember where I put it. Hopefully in a bin, because it was so bad. Yeah, this one was just silly and dragged on and was inappropriate at times. And oh, here it is. It's in front of me. I found it. Yeah, I just really hated this book. It was a 1-star read. It was just really boring. I just hated it. It's just these two vanilla characters, too afraid to talk to each other. Basically, their friends wouldn't even like go up to the other person and say, hey, my friend fancies you, which like I don't understand why that didn't happen. And it was just so obvious that they were so into each other, and neither of them made a move, and it for like literally like 6 months or 7 months, and it was just so annoying. It was just frustrating. By the end of the book, I was literally just reading the book to see what would happen at the end, and like what happened at the end wasn't even great. It was just like, okay, yeah, they like each other, like what we knew of the whole book. Yeah, and I just felt like there was a professor in it who I just felt like a lot of her actions and things she did were really inappropriate, and I didn't like that. Yeah, I just didn't like this book. I really didn't. Let me know some of your disappointing books down below and what you think of my ones. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a very, very Merry Christmas Eve, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for a weekly wrap up and my very last Vlogmas of 2016. See you.